have many people there in person as well?
Just just three of us total, but only one participant.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. My name's Ann Eason. I'm an instructional designer here at EKU, and we're going to talk about a tool in Canvas called Lucid, and then I'll also let Dr. Thornburg introduce himself as well.
Yeah, hello. My name is Bill Thornburg. I'm in the School of Education with a focus in middle grades and secondary science education. And I got pulled into this through course redevelopment over the summer when I worked with Anne, and she introduced me to Lucid, and I've been using it ever since.
Yeah. And we're going to have some time at the end for you all to have kind of like a hands-on portion to try out some of the things that we're going to cover for your own assignments and assessments and all that kind of stuff. But if you have any other questions as we're going through this, please feel free to put them in the chat or come off mute. Yeah, we'd be happy to help however we can. So this session is kind of designed as a follow-up to a previous session that we did covering this tool at a very basic level. So we're going to kind of do a quick overview and then dive a little bit deeper into Lucid and all of its features. But by the end of the session, you'll be able to integrate the advanced features of Lucid within Canvas into your assignments and assessments and discussion boards to create a more engaging and student-centered approach to your instructional design. You'll be able to design and implement visually engaging course materials like discussion boards, diagrams, templates, and just a collaborative space for your students. You'll be able to apply the strategies that you're in Lucid to enhance communication and collaboration among your students. You'll be able to evaluate different examples of Lucid integrated assignments, assessments, discussions in Canvas to the activities that you're currently doing in your classroom. And you'll be able to redesign an existing classroom assignment or activity into the Lucid space. And this really can work for the things that we're going to talk about can work for the synchronous and asynchronous environments. There are lots of different tools and features that can give you kind of that collaborative feature. So first of all, Lucid is a collaborative tool. There are options for kind of just like a basic visual whiteboard space, as well as different templates and things that you can design and redesign. There are two main products, Lucid Chart, which is the collaborative diagramming component, but you can use it for a lot of different things, mind mapping, different templates that we'll look at and talk about together. And then Lucid Spark, which is the collaborative whiteboard. And I think just kind of a very basic way to think about the tool Lucid is having a whiteboard, having that space in your classroom. This gives you a lot of those same capabilities and features in the online environment. There are a lot of different things that can be used for a synchronous environment, even if you're doing it online to kind of let your students break out and engage in that way, or an asynchronous environment. The tool is also fully integrated into Canvas, so your students don't have to go anywhere else. It can stay within your course shell, which is really helpful just for ease of use for both you and your students. And it helps your students display their knowledge in a different way, and then they also have the opportunity to interact with the content in a different way.
So we're going to look at this first. This is an example of how I used Lucid over the summer. You can see it at the top there. This was a discussion board over the use of selected response questions when talking about assessment and education. And what I found is that, so just to give you a brief overview of what you're looking at, students can post sticky notes and it puts their name on the bottom of it. They can change the color of their stickies, so they can stand apart from their classmates. And then as they read the prompt, and there's three main prompts in this particular one, they're like pink, blue, and green, and they're rectangular. And then they respond to those prompts. So I gave them kind of a general, like, here, put them in this spot. But because the groups were large, they went out of those areas, which is great to see because it showed that they were really, interacting well. Um, they're able to draw arrows to make direct connections to their classmates' work. And so what I really saw, and as you can see from this one example, is that I think it's a more meaningful, engaging way for students to be posting responses and posting to peers than the traditional discussion board format. Um, Discussion boards, while we may intend them to be interactive and engaging, they're not always. Or if they are, a lot of students will, unless we're very, very vigilant about making this happen, a lot of responses like, I totally agree, and good job, like very superficial, very generic, not reflective at all, not substantial. And as you can see from all of these various sticky notes, none of the students had those types of responses. So I don't know why the difference. I mean, I can't speak to that just yet because course evaluations aren't in, but I can tell you that the responses to peers are way better using this format than the traditional discussion board experience that students typically have.
Yeah, and I think that this snapshot here is a really good example to see the visual connection that students are making. So instead of replying to a peer and saying, and maybe just acknowledging their comments or offering a bit of positive feedback that way, they're able to make connections with the experiences or maybe what other students took away from the reading. And I think that this particular discussion board does a good job at showing that with all of the different arrows that students are making, drawing back to the same kind of core comments.
And before you switch, there is one other thing I can throw in here.
Mhm.
Um, I think the norm is professors set for students is you make a post and then you respond to like two classmates.
Mhm.
And what I noticed in reviewing what students have done on their Lucid boards is they are oftentimes responding to more than the two classmates. I don't offer any bonus points. I don't ask them to do that. So as I noticed that, it actually was quite surprising because before it always felt like almost like I had to pull teeth to get him to complete that to earn like the full 10 out of 10. But now they seem to be more willing to actually engage with their peers. So I'm seeing 3, 4, and 5 comments often from students.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point too, because I would agree from at least the feedback I've heard that it's discussion boards are really hard, especially in the asynchronous environment. And it's hard to get students to do a substantial post of any kind, and then also, replying to two peers or whatever the standard is. I also think that this tool is a little bit more visually appealing, which is engaging for students. It's something that they're not used to, and it kind of makes it a little bit more fun. And so I'm going to hop out of our slides really quickly, and we're going to be going back and forth between the tool and this presentation. So when you get to your Canvas course, you'll see the Lucid tool on your side on the sidebar here in the navigation. And then once you have your account, it'll just prompt you to create your account. This is where you'll be able to create your assignments and your discussion board activities. So if I wanted to create a new discussion board for my course, I'm in my Lucid account. For this example, I'm just going to start with a blank board.
And
Yes,
real quick before doing that, can you pop back over to Canvas?
yes.
And then if someone did not see Lucid in their sidebar, can you just show them how
Oh,
they will do it?
yes, that's a good point. So if it's not enabled here, and even after you enable it, if you want to change anything, you'll go to your settings. And then from the navigation option on the top, you'll find it, and either from these three dots on the side, you'll enable it or move it wherever you want it to be. And then make sure you press save down at the bottom because I've made that mistake before. And then it'll show up on your navigation bar. And your students will be able to access it from that link, or they'll be able to access it from anything in the course that you've added. Same for you as an instructor. You'll be able to add it through that link. You'll be able to add it as from just typing the address, whatever's easiest for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you'll see right now a couple of templates, and we'll come back and kind of explore these options a little bit more later. But I'm just going to close out, and you'll see it gives me just a blank board. The Lucid space is boundless, so you don't have to worry about running out of any room for your students. I don't know how well you can see, but just as I'm scrolling, it'll just go on forever. And this is where you can create your collaborative space. So if you usually use a whiteboard or something in your classroom that where you allow students to add comments or feedback, whatever, you can do the same thing here. We're going to set up an example discussion board. So I'm going to move the camera. I'm going to start with my text. You would probably give it a title relevant to your module, your content, whatever it is that you want to use the discussion board or discussion prompt for. You can format it however you want, just like you would in Canvas or any sort of word processing. And then you can use different templates or different shapes or different boxes. I'm sorry, I keep having to move the video. And then set up your prompt. So you're going to add your prompt, whatever it is that you want your students to respond to. You might also add the requirements for peer feedback, respond to 2 additional students, whatever it is. You can use different shapes for different headings if you had different prompts or different categories where you wanted your students to respond to pieces of the information or pieces of the reading. And Dr. Thornburg, please feel free to jump in if there's anything that I'm missing or things that you found that have worked when you're setting these up too.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you can see from the toolbar as she's dragging and dropping is you can customize. You can add color, you can change the size, you can change the shape. You can get super creative with this, or you can keep it real basic. And this is something that you're creating for them to work off of. But the next thing we're going to go to, the same thing applies, where individually students could create and submit, and maybe creativity is part of your grading scheme. There's a lot of functionality here, but it is more, as Ann said earlier, like visually pleasing, and there's unlimited amounts of space. So it's just kind of getting things on here. The one thing I will add is, Ann, if you click on like one of the boxes that you created,
Mhm.
let's say you don't want your students to be able to move this, you can lock that into place. So then everything they add would be around, and that left rectangle will not move. So you can control what students are able to do and not do.
That's a good point. And you can do that with text too. So if you have your heading, your instructions, and you want to lock all of that so students aren't accidentally moving anything around, that's an option too. So even now, after I've locked it, I can't do anything with it. Okay, and I'm going to give this one a name so that I can find it. And then once you have your discussion board or your activity, I'm going to go back over to my Canvas course, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom for just a cleaner module. And then it's a little counterintuitive with the discussion activities because we're actually going to add it to a page just so that it's all there in one space and it's really easy for students to find. So from this module, I'm going to click the plus sign. That's how I add anything in Canvas, assignments, pages, quizzes, whatever it is. I'm going to create a new page. And then I'm just going to title it. I'm going to go into my new page. And then this is what they call the rich content editor, just the text editor in Canvas. This little L here, that's the Lucid plugin. So that's where you'll be able to find any of the documents that you've created. So I just clicked on that. And in just a minute, it'll bring up any document that I've created or shared in Lucid. So I can then choose my discussion. I want to make sure that my students can edit it so that they're going right into this page and adding their comments. If you had something, some sort of example or template that you wanted students to comment on or view only, you do have those options as well. And I'm going to insert it. I might still add my rubric to the bottom or give students instructions towards the top of the page to let them know exactly how I want them to interact with it. And then I'm going to publish this. And then my students will see the discussion right here in this page. They can still view it in a new tab, which will bring it into a full screen view so they can scroll around and have enough space for their work, but they're not leaving Canvas. They'll just be prompted to create their account, which I think just asks them to verify their email address, their EKU email address the first time they access the tool. But they're right in there. They're not going anywhere else. Everything will be saved right here. So it's a live document, just like a Google Doc. You can see their contributions. One thing to note is when you're working with students, have them use the sticky note. That's the easiest tool to make sure that their name stays on their contributions to track it so you know who is making what post. But it's right there for them. Any changes that you make in your Lucid document will also reflect on your Canvas page. So if you decide you need to go back and clarify something, add extra examples, add extra instructions, anything like that. You can do it in your Lucid account or within your Canvas shell, and it'll reflect in both places, which is really nice.
Yeah, and again, just if you were online, just to make sure you caught that. So she's switching between Canvas and between Lucid, and you can see that the change is automatic, real time. And if you click on your sticky note, you can see there that students can change the color, they can change the text, they can add links, they can add emojis, they can change the shape of their. So the students can really even just show some creativity with the sticky note that they choose to post their responses on.
And I think that also ties into it being like a more engaging, more dynamic tool. It's fun that they have the power to, choose their favorite color for their sticky note and connect arrows with their friends and stuff like that. Like it's just kind of a way to present the information to them in a maybe more non-traditional way, but still let them kind of have a little bit of ownership and autonomy over what they're producing in in the within what you want them to do, I guess. All right. Anything else about discussions that I missed?
So if you go back to the presentation, I can touch on the example that we had, because there is
Okay.
one thing that I think is really important. I will share with you. my own failure um, is that you can see there at the top left, I put this in, so this is student's last name M to Z. So I had 37 students or so. I definitely like the idea of assigning them to groups, but this did get a little busy. So I would recommend that you probably try to keep your groups to maybe 10 or less students, to just keep it more manageable, not only for them to be reading like each of their group members' posts, but for you, the instructor, to be checking them and doing the grading of what they post. This was a lot of students. This was 17 or 18 students here.
That's a good point. And something else I forgot to mention at the beginning of the presentation is we have different resources for instructor guides, student guides, a copy of the slides that went along with our first presentation that will all be shared with you after this session. So you'll have those resources available as well. That was one of the things that we talked about last time. Okay, so in addition to having a shared collaborative space where students are working together on a discussion, on an assignment, whatever it is, you also have the option to create an individual assignment where students can do something. They're creating their own, you can do a drag and drop, a sort, they're creating a template or a model, a mind map, anything like that, and then submit their individual assignments.
Yeah, this was another one of my assignments where, I just had to make sure when I created the answers at the bottom, I locked them. But then students are able to drag and drop into what they feel is the appropriate category. Again, it is more interactive, especially for online asynchronous students. But then the beautiful thing about using Lucid for assignment creation and submission is that when they complete it, it saves their work as a PDF. So as I go into the gradebook to get everything graded, everything is in the same format. I'm not having to deal with like text entry, Google Docs, clicking this link and that link, and half of them not working. It just keeps everything very consistent and easy to grade.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about having access to anything. It's all the same. You have all the same functionalities in SpeedGrader from a grading perspective in Canvas. So that's really nice as well. And this is where I think the templates are probably come into handy a little bit more. So I'm back in my Lucid account here. And if I did want to create something that was a drag and drop or something where students were going to be doing their own activity, I'm going to look at these templates. And there are a lot of good, just like basic things. So you might have an idea and then see a template that works. They're all totally customizable. So maybe I like the use of this one, like the look of this one. And then I open it up and I see, oh, this isn't really what I wanted. You can just delete it, or you can use what you have. I'm going to get rid of all of that stuff. I'm going to leave these because maybe I want to use each of these as my different drag and drop items. I might change this to sort the following items, kind of like the other example. I can also just copy and paste if I need to make these, if I need a lot of them. There we go. And then I am going to have, oops, here we go. So I'm going to say section 1, section 2. And then I'll just copy and paste that one. Section 3. I might change all of these squares into the same color to make sure that the color doesn't give them away based on the category. I might decide that I want them to be a different shape, and I can do that. Let's make them all one color. I can change how they're outlined. So a lot of different options there just to, again, make it a little bit more visually engaging for students. And then I'm going to title this one Sorting. And again, I might add my instructions on here or anything else that your students will need to complete the activity. You could also use it as like a diagramming example or a mind map. That could again be something that students are submitting individually or as a group, kind of just depending on the nature of the activity. And then I'm going to go back into my Canvas course, back into my modules. And once I have that assignment set exactly how I want it, I am going to create an assignment. I'm going to give it a title. And then this is the part that's a little bit different from other assignments.
But very easy.
But very easy, yes. So on my submission type, this is probably where if you're teaching an asynchronous course, it's always online. If you have a face-to-face course, you might do no submission or on paper, but we're going to choose the Lucid tool because that's what we're using. You can choose to load it in a new tab. And then once I've chosen the Lucid tool, and this goes for when you're adding it to a page as well, it's going to prompt you to create your own. So I can choose from my blank board or from my documents. I think it's easier to start in Lucid rather than starting and building in Canvas. So I'm going to go to my documents, but if you would rather just stay in Canvas because that's easier, just know you have that option too. So I'm going to go to my documents. I'm choosing the sorting activity that I just created. And I want to load this in a new tab for students. You have all of the same options as far as assigning to, due dates, the points. If you want to add extra instructions here for students so they know exactly what to do. I'm going to save it. And then this is the activity. This is what students will see. If you have any additional instructions, those will be above the tool tab. If you're using a rubric, you can still add that just like any other assignment. And then when students click on it, going to take just a second, but it'll open up the same document. Since I am the creator of this document, I won't see it here, but they'll have a submit button up in the top right-hand corner. And these instructions are also included in the resources that you'll get after this presentation. So just keep that in mind as well. So they'll submit it. It comes directly back to you in Canvas, in SpeedGrader, just like any other assignment. It comes as a PDF, so it's easy to grade. You have access to it. You can download it, anything that you need to do. So just a couple different steps, but it's very easy.
Yeah, it is super easy. And I don't know if you saw that post that Cindy, that chat that Cindy put in there, but what it shows, because I just opened one of mine up and Anne is the one controlling from where she is, so I can't show you this, but I can try when we're done. Everything comes through very clean. Like it comes through looking like a PDF with their work embedded on it. So super clean, super consistent. easy to grade. I don't have to worry about interpreting, what bad writing. I don't, it's really great.
Yeah, it makes it easy.
If you want me to, if you're in the library, I can stop in before I head back to Combs.
All right. Okay, so we've talked about this a little bit already, but looking at this tool that we think is really great, of course, the question comes up, well, why would I do this? I have my discussion boards. This is a different tool. I'm sure there's going to be, the learning curve for myself as an instructor and from my students. But we would definitely encourage you. It's a very easy tool to kind of learn and get the hang of. And it really allows students to engage with the content in a different way. It allows them to display what they're learning in a different way. It has a lot of different features, extra features, advanced features that we're going to look at in just a minute that really work for both the asynchronous and synchronous environments. So you have the collaborative space, you have assignments that you can have students use. It's totally customizable, so it can fit the needs of any discussion or assignment that you are creating or that you have in your course. It's super easy to integrate into your Canvas shell. And there are a lot of really great features that I think really work well for both the synchronous and asynchronous formats. So I'm going back in. Okay. So let's take a look at some of the extra features, advanced features that could be helpful in also a synchronous environment. So I'm going to start again from my blank board. And then let's take a look at these visual activities. And this is something that we kind of started exploring last week and found a lot of different options for again, both the synchronous and the asynchronous environments. So even if you're starting from a blank board, not starting from a pre-made template, which again, there are a lot of really great examples here, but I can, from this example, I can create a sorting or a voting activity. So I can ask my students to vote on a certain topic. I can collect data as a formative assessment. I can do a quick poll. So lots of different options here. So it's something that you could do in real time with your students in the classroom and kind of gauge their understanding or their interest on a certain topic. Or it's something that you can set up in an asynchronous environment in the same way.
Yeah, when we started to explore some of the other features, I mean, to be quite honest, I got very excited and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to up my game here with assignments. And actually, I think first year courses, you could easily do this. To get them working together and to be formatively assessing, even when you have them face to face, you can insert videos, you can insert images, you can assign tasks to. But as Ann said, there's a number of these kind of pre-made templates that would be great for formative assessment, which is really important for us.
The others that we were looking at, the slides, let's see. So there are also different categories like education, team building, meetings and workshops. So you might find that a certain template or a certain style works well for your class or your content. And then these are also all customizable. So I might like the look of this one. But maybe I don't like this question or I don't like these categories, I can still go in and change anything. I can change anything. I can change the color. I can change the size, all of that, just like you can when you are creating your own board. So you can find a template, find an activity, and customize it to meet the needs of your course, your students, and the material that you're trying to cover. You can also add different things like a timer, especially if you are doing something in class with your students and you want to have a quick poll or collect data somehow. If you want to put a time limit, that's kind of fun. It might be a race to the end or a collaborative activity where students only have a set amount of time. This is also the voting session option. So you can add time, let students vote for something, lots of different options for the advanced features, these different cards. And then, all right, I'm going to erase these. These are also all of the different options that students have for all of the activities. These are the arrows where they can make connections during like a discussion board, the post-it notes, and there's also a student guide included in the resources that you'll get after this presentation. So that's helpful just to kind of give students an idea to practice using this tool because it might be new to them before they get started. All right.
And
Anything else before?
there's one other thing. Can you show them the card? Like, let's say you assign them into small groups,
Yes.
you give them a collaborative space. Once the group has access to their space, they actually can drop notes for each other. They can insert these cards where they can then assign different tasks to group members. And again, when they do things like this, their group members are getting like these real-time changes and notifications. So again, just like the versatility of Lucid, it's really amazing.
And they can add different reactions to the cards or what they're assigned to. You can also lock these, so you can set up a whole team or collaborative board with different spaces for the different groups, and they'll just be able to add their own comments and features rather than creating their own if that's something that you're worried about. Let's see. There's also, you can insert like a video or an image directly in there. So you can insert a video that you want your students to watch and then have them respond to it, whether that's through the discussion board or an individual activity, as well as a picture. If there's a diagram or something that you want them to respond to, you also have that option. And then where am I missing the presentation mode?
For
The presentation, and it made it like the Prezi.
oh gosh, which one was that?
I was just looking at it the other day. Let's see.
Yeah, sorry, I would have to go back and play around with it. The you can Prezi is, if you don't know what that is, it's a tool similar to it's a presentation tool. It's like PowerPoint, but it allows a lot more kind of movement and maybe more creativity in how you present topics to students. So there is a feature on here where you can have the presentation going from one spot to another. I mean, almost like flying around like you see in Prezi. So that could be a useful tool. I saw that, I think that was Sarah who said something about like you have an idea in mind, which hopefully just showing you these various tools and some ways that it's been used, like it's getting the juices flowing, because we really wanted to take some of the time at the end here to maybe have you kind of intentionally think about an assignment or a way you could use this, or to open a current assignment and open Lucid and see if you could put it in here and make it work. So hopefully we'll have some work time when we're finished.
Yeah, a few other really quick things before we split into small groups. One thing to keep in mind about the Lucid tool is it is the living document, the things that you're creating and adding to your course. You're going to want some sort of master template. So creating a folder or some sort of organizational structure to make sure that you have all of that. I'm just going to put template. You can share with other people and then make sure that you have all of your documents, your master templates. You can share them, move it to the correct folder to make sure that in future semesters you have your clean copy that you're adding to your course rather than the one with student work. Because you'll see here, these are just other Lucid activities that I've helped with. I have all of the student work on the original, so you'll want a clean copy that can then be added to your course. So just something to keep in mind as you're exploring the tool.
Yeah, and I'll jump in just for a second on that. Um, please learn from my mistake. When I started to use this, I I didn't even think about the fact that the students' work would show up on my creation. So at the end of the semester, I had to go in and I had to delete everything. So it was time consuming and unnecessary. And then Anne gave the suggestion I should have a template that always stays clean. And so, like anything else, like if you think about your own Google Drive, the more folders you have and the more organized you are, everything is easier at the end, right? So you would want to have, like for me, EDF 413. I need to have an EDF 413 templates folder. Then I need to have a fall 2025 EDF 413. And in each semester, I just add a new one. And so I make a copy of the clean version. And I put that copy then into the semester in which I'll be using it. And it will help you tremendously.
And it's super easy to do. I mean, the two examples that I gave during this presentation were not very in-depth. I'm sure that you would put a lot more thought and be very more intentional when you're creating assignments for your classroom. But it's super easy once I have, if this is my template, I can move it to my folder, just a matter of a couple clicks. If I am in my template folder, I can make a copy. So it's really easy to do, but taking that time and making sure that you're being organized and making a copy of all of your templates or of your master documents will be helpful in the future. And then you can change and edit and do whatever you need to do to improve them for future semesters as well. So I think that's about everything that we wanted to talk about before we split into groups, unless I'm missing anything.
No, I think that you hit all the high points and I mean before we break out, because how many people are we left with? And can you see right now?
Let's see. We have 4.
Okay, so what we could do is maybe just brainstorm as we're already a small group.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea in mind of how you could use this for the first time? Or and that's either a fresh creation or taking a previous assignment and converting it into a Lucid assignment. And so, Sarah, you jumped right on it. So go ahead.
Thanks. I do have an idea of how I want to use it. I was thinking I have an assignment where students read about theoretical and philosophical kind of frameworks for occupational therapy, and then we ask them to create their own representation of the model. And I think that would be really fun. They've normally done it. This is the first time I'm teaching the class, but previous teachers used trying to think what that, I've never used the old software, so I can't remember what it's called. Is it called a Miro board or something?
Oh, a Miro, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but since I'm taking the class over, I need some new, fresh ideas that are a bit up to date. So I think this one might work. I don't know that I'll have much of a template though, because really it's for their creation, but I might just throw some empty ones up. Um, Maybe I'll do a video of making my own just so they can see how it's made or something. But yeah.
Well, and that's a really good point too, because students, you can give them a template, but they also, you can give them a blank board and they'll have the same, I'm just going to open this blank one back up. They'll have all the same tools and functions, so they could choose a template that will help them represent, whatever they need for that assignment. And they'll have all the same tools here, so they can create their own, they can choose and customize a template, but they'll have those same options too.
Sarah, I also could see that. I love that idea. And then I also could see them, if you wanted them to do this as almost like a jigsaw, where all the students are expected to know all of these things, even though they just do some research on one, that they all could work off the same board and they'd all have access to the same information.
Sorry, and I'm just typing in the chat. They actually often work in pairs. So you often have two working on a board, but all groups can see each other's because they're given different, each pair has a different philosophy or theory or concept that they're mapping.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a really great idea. Good way to use this thing.
And you can create breakout boards or kind of like individual team spaces within the same board to achieve that really easily.
So you would have, let me just think about that because I did miss part of it because I've had students in now. I'm also watching an exam as it go. I'm proctoring as I talk. That's why I'm a bit all over the place. So it would be better, you think, to have just one project with multiple boards versus a board per pair that all can view? Is that what you're thinking, Anne?
Well, I think it kind of depends on what you want students to be able to see within the same assignment. But let's see. You can use something that looks here. I'm just going to open this one. Something that looks kind of like this, where they have each of their own kind of individual spaces within a shared space. You can also give them access within Canvas to each kind of pair. If they each had a page where they're working together with their pair, but they can go into the, 10 different pages to see what everybody else is doing.
That was more what I was thinking because I don't know, when I go to grade, I only want two people linked to that board, if that's what they're called. Because I don't know, because I'm not sure how it'll then interact with the grades and stuff.
That's a good point. That might be the easiest way to do it. Based on your experience, Dr. Thornburg, do you think that one would be better than another?
I have yet to do something as small as pairs. All of my collaborative work has been like more of like a larger group. I don't mind the students, like, I guess I would need to know more about the assignment, but I would think if all of the students need to know all of the different philosophies, it's not a bad idea for them to all be on the same board because it's less clicking around to find other information, right? So I would look at it like, I want to try to make their lives as easy as possible. And potentially I may feel stuck and not know what to do in my group. So we could then bounce over to a different part of the board and see how another group is creating theirs and use that for inspiration. So I think kind of having one board where they each claim a different spot would then still allow me to go in and easily grade it by the pairs that created it. But I could see that you also could just do it as, here, you two do this assignment and you submit it, and then allow them to view other people's boards. That would just require some more work on your part too, to do sharing and change it to view only, for all of those different pages. So
Yeah.
how many students do you have would probably affect whether or not you wanted to do that.
I guess what I'm confused about is if I only have one area, I don't know if that's I don't know what you call it when you have a bunch of boards in one space. If I have one area with all the pairs boards, and then I've set up groups in my grade book, I don't understand how I'm going to have my rubric for each pair paired with the giant grade book, like, or with the giant board. Like, normally what happens when I'm grading, if I've created pairs, there's one submission or one thing I look at, and I'm grading everyone on one rubric. But you're saying have like 5 boards in one space. I'm not sure then how to work through my groups, because can you link one assignment to like 10 groups
Yeah,
and work?
I would
That's
go
what I'm confused about.
I would go into the grade book and I would add, like, let's say this is the chapter 1 assignment, and I'd add chapter 1 assignment. I'd open the board and I would just go, okay, pair 1, rubric, they're good, 10 out of 10. Pair 2, they include everything, 10 out, and then I would go to the grade book and just enter in everything individually. That's how I think I would do it, like, just off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah, I normally try to minimize, like, I have a group created in gradebook for that assignment, so I only answer a rubric once for all the people rather than having to.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
then go into the grading, you could copy and paste your comment into the section. And then just next student, copy paste, next student, copy paste, like your comments about the rubric and how you graded it. And then they can compare their grade and how they did to what, you say in the rubric description.
Yeah, yeah. And what I'm saying is I don't normally do it that way. I normally create a group in the gradebook so that I only write it once and 5 people see it. But I hear what you're saying. You're saying grade everyone individually, but I'm thinking, to me, part of the benefit of having groups or pairs is I only grade half. If they're in pairs, I only grade half. Or if they're in, fifths, like fifths, I only grade 5 rather than 20, or I don't know. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to think about workload issues here. I'm like, let's be efficient. Always counting
Could
every minute.
I
you
think
could do something?
the
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think the tool allows you to administer or, deliver an assignment in a lot of different ways. And I'm with you. I think our own grading, our own efficiency is really important to consider.
And you can do something similar anytime that you have a Lucid document embedded on a page. It won't automatically reflect in your gradebook, so you'll have to have an assignment to make it talk to the gradebook. So I'm just going to give this one a name. So this is my assignment. I'll give it 10 points. And then I'm not going to change any of I'm just going to have it as a no submission. If you were doing a group assignment or a pair assignment, you could make it a group assignment
You
and then
wouldn't,
have.
sorry, submission type wouldn't be Lucid?
So let me back up a second. If you're doing something where you are using just the board, not something where students are submitting their individual work. So let
Yes.
me scroll back down here. And this is just one option. So I don't know if it would if it's going to accomplish what you want or make it more complicated. But when I have my page here, it's not going to automatically show up in my grade book like an assignment, a quiz, or a discussion would, because it's just a page. Usually this is where we just put the content. Because my students are doing something that I want to grade, I'm going to kind of mimic that with an assignment. So,
Yep. I got that. I'm
yep.
just unclear why you said no submission and didn't make it, because I've done it with like a Google Doc and I link it to an external tool and click Google Doc because it's a Google Doc. So in my mind, I'm like, well, this is Lucid, so why are we not selecting Lucid?
Because it's not tied to the board that I embedded on a page. You could still put it in an assignment and embed it that way. But it's less confusing for students when it's just on a page, at least in my experience. So I'm not going to add this to the module, so my students aren't even going to see it. It's only going to be for me and my grading purposes. And then when I go into the grade book, I'll be able to grade their work based on their contributions to that page. So I'll have to look at the board and then add their grades, but you could still do it as a group assignment that way.
That, Sarah, this took me a little bit to wrap my head around too. So there's like an extra minor step that you can do it one way or you can do it the other, but like discussion boards being embedded tends to work better, and then putting assignments as more of a click here to open and as an attachment. But then you have to go to the grading book and you have to just add in like, hey, I want this to be graded. And so it's a no submission, but they've already submitted it, right? But if you want it to be submitted, it's got to be embedded, and you can do it that way. But just how Anne has been working with it and how I've been using it, that's the way we've set it up. It's not created too much extra work, to be honest. I don't even really notice it.
It's basically just creating another column in your grade book that matches something that doesn't have a grade. So you're just pairing it up. Because just looking at this document embedded into a page, it's not matching up to anything in the grade book because it's just on the page. Usually pages aren't graded. So that's why we add it to the grade book. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Are there any other, I'm noticing we just have a couple minutes left. Any other ideas for how to use this tool or questions?
I think I just need to
Play, yeah. Yeah, the comment was, I just need to play. And
Yeah.
to be honest, yes, exactly. I played around with it a lot over the summer, and I made a lot of mistakes. As I'm starting my term B class, the first couple of assignments and discussions I've included, I've been more efficient. And so I think that you'll get the hang of what you can and can't do, and how long it takes, and whether or not it's worthwhile.
And there are so many different features. I mean, we just kind of found the extra cards and presentations and videos just last week. So there are a lot of different things that it can do, and it, just like with anything, takes time to kind of figure all of that out.
If you ever do have any questions about, how to use it, or you just want someone to be by your side while you play, please shoot me a note, email me, william.thornburg. I'm happy. I'm on campus Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm happy to sit down with you or answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, feel free to email me or your instructional designer if you're working with somebody already. We're always happy to help. Some of the resources that you'll be getting after this presentation also include video tutorials and different things like that to kind of show you a couple different features and walk you through how to use them. So hopefully those will be helpful too.
Thanks for joining us. Hopefully this is a tool of interest and something that can help you improve your engagement and collaboration, especially with online asynchronous courses.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you all for being here this afternoon.
Send
let
me know if you want me to stop in your office if you're here. Okay, I'll go shut it down, Anne. Thanks. Good job.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Cindy. Cindy, I'll be in Comes 109, or I can stay in the library. What would you prefer?
I'll head over there. I have a few minutes before my next obligation, so I'll just run over